I don't sleep on planes. I don't like sleeping on planes, you know. I like looking out the window watching for missiles and enemies, actually.
Yes, President Trump, he doesn't like sleeping on airplanes. He likes to keep his eyes peeled, looking out the windows, looking for enemies and missiles. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Bad. The president at the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. today, where he's mostly riffing. I'm sure that there is a speech in the teleprompter, but the president was busy riffing, and he was riffing terrific today. I want to play a few of the audio sound bites for you because he's in great form today, great form. Also, I had mentioned that it turns out the wife of Jeff Bezos, the kind of newish wife, the second wife of Jeff Bezos, who is apparently a Hollywood actress who's been in a bunch of movies. And Jeff Bezos, maybe because his wife wanted him to buy a movie studio, he bought MGM because why wouldn't you? You know, you're Jeff Bezos and you have hundreds of billions of dollars, and your new wife is an actress of sorts, and maybe she wants to have a role in the Hollywood business, right? And so, hey, honey, would you buy MGM for me because I might want to be involved in the movie business? And sure, honey, I'll buy MGM, and then maybe we'll get lunch. Maybe we'll also get lunch, have a nice lunch after I buy MGM Motion Picture Studios for you, because why not? And now the story that's all over the place is pretty wild, is that the wife of Jeff Bezos is going to be in charge of deciding who will play James Bond in future James Bond movies. And it's kind of wacky, but this is what you do if you're worth hundreds of billions of dollars, I suppose. And her name is Lauren Sanchez, or Lauren Sanchez Bezos, if you prefer, married Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos' wife, Lauren Sanchez, is said to be heading up the casting process for the next James Bond movie. But there's one Oscar-nominated actor she's steering clear of. And here's a picture of Jeff Bezos and his wife, who I think it would be fair to say has had a bit of work. You can tell from the satellite photo that I'm looking at now. Lauren Sanchez has reportedly banned one A-list actor from getting the coveted role of 007 in the next James Bond film. The former journalist and wife of billionaire Jeff Bezos is said to have put her foot down with a very expensive shoe, and put her foot down when it comes to one actor in particular, claiming that he has emotional baggage. That's what she said, emotional baggage. And it turns out it's an Australian guy who I don't know very much about, I've got to say, named Jacob Elordi. What is that? Is that his name? Elordi. Jacob Elordi. And he's an Australian person. And there's a picture of him in the story here. And I think if I were casting the role of a barista at Starbucks, I might choose this guy. But if it were James Bond, I probably would not choose this guy. It comes following rumors that Sanchez, the new wife, has been given the right to choose the next James Bond following her husband's acquisition of MGM Studios. Sure, naturally, in 2022. And according to showbiz journalist Rob Shuter, S-H-U-T-E-R, Rob Shuter, he's a showbiz journalist, don't you know? And he's got a February 3rd blog post. He said the 56-year-old, the wife of Jeff Bezos, is quite boss hovering over the Bond universe. She's boss hovering over the universe. And it's Lauren's call now. Sure. If she's not feeling you, it's done, Shooter said on his Substack. So of Sanchez Bezos, the new wife of Jeff Bezos. So she's going to get to choose the next James Bond as an actor. Piercy, maybe it should be you. maybe it should be. But not, and this Australian guy who should be a barista in a Starbucks movie, any movie about Starbucks, but that's it. Sanchez instead apparently wants an actor that is polished, charming, globally appealing, not someone who looks like he's carrying emotional baggage. Meaning, and then there's another picture of him here where he looks kind of constipated, like Jon Hamm. You know, Jon Hamm always looks like he's terribly constipated. He's, in everything. Isn't that the Top Gun Maverick, where he's just constipated in every single frame, every page? All right, but let's get back to, so that's, this is what you can do if you marry Jeff Bezos. Hey, honey, will you buy MGM for me so I can pick the actor that plays James Bond in the next James Bond film? Certainly, honey. Would you make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? I think she'd answer no to that, don't you think? I think she wouldn't. I think she'd say no. She'd snap her fingers and call someone that doesn't speak English very well. That's what I'm thinking. All right, let's get back to President Trump from the National Prayer Breakfast, because there he was. He doesn't like sleeping on airplanes. One of the things he's talking about the National Prayer Breakfast, I think that was not in the teleprompter. And he said, and Democrats. He said there are some Democrats in the crowd, but they're not really church-going people. And then we looked at all the attacks on Catholic churches and the Democrats running their after-school Satan clubs and schools and so on. But President Trump at the National Prayer Breakfast this morning, not necessarily sticking to the script.
They rigged the second election. I had to win it. I needed it for my own ego. I would have had a bad ego for the rest of my life. Now I really have a big ego. Beating these lunatics was incredible, right? What a great feeling. Winning every swing state, winning the popular vote. The first time, they said I didn't win the popular vote. I did.
I said the first time they said I didn't win the popular vote, I did. And then, honestly, in 2020, of course, Joe Biden broke all land speed records with the greatest number of votes garnered by any president in the history of the country, because he's so great. He's Eisenhower and Julius Caesar rolled into one. But millions and millions more votes than Hillary Clinton got from Democrats. They didn't show up for the first woman president, but millions more showed up for Joe Biden. And millions more Democrats showed up for Joe Biden than showed up for Barack Obama, the first black president. So the Democrats are racist and sexist, but they will vote for a crusty, demented old man in record numbers because Joe Biden was so great. But President Trump, the National Prayer Breakfast, veering off script, talking about a whole range of fun things, not sleeping on airplanes because he likes to look for missiles and enemies out the windows, and that's fun. And also, he doesn't understand how a person of faith can vote Democrat, and that's true. 1 million abortions a year and same-sex marriage and all. The Democrat Party. And the after-school Satan clubs. They have after-school Satan clubs, and the Temple of Satan is right in there with the Democrat Party. President Trump just covering the waterfront.
And by the way, us and them, we have 68% of the world's oil.
Venezuela.
Now, I know that doesn't mean too much to people of great religion. I know you want to hear about that, but, we got to keep our country strong, and we're doing really good. But that's been an amazing operation.
It's been an amazing operation, and he's back to the grabbing Nicolas Maduro Delta Force, which is supposed to be a secret, grabbing Nicolas Maduro using secret weapons that are supposed to be a secret, and all that great stuff. But the fun stuff, talking about, and the Venezuelan oil, and you combine Venezuelan oil and American oil, and we have the lock on the world's oil. And that's good because that's energy, and we like inexpensive and abundant energy. See 3 Days of the Condor and what that's all about. But that's not important. And President Trump did an interview. They like to call it a sit-down interview, like it's mafia, with a left-wing Democrat Party activist named Tom Llamas of NBC Fake News. Tom Llamas was posing as a smug journalist and asking the president questions. And President Trump at the prayer breakfast.
Yesterday, I did the Super Bowl interview. Sir, are you going to relieve Kristi Noem of her duties. No. Oh. I said, why would I do that? We have the strongest border in the history of our country.
Democrats are not clapping.
The best crime numbers we've ever had, going back to the year 1900, that's 125 years.
The lowest murder rate since 1900, 125, 126 years. The Democrats, nobody clapped because they like murder. They are the party of murder. They're the party of illegal guns and all that. In fact, I was driving in, and it's a great line. I haven't used it in a while, but the line, when Democrats talk about guns, they talk about guns being used for murder and carjackings and robberies and suicides, because that's what they use them for. And when Republicans talk about guns and the Second Amendment, we talk about constitutional rights, defending your family, defeating bad guys, and winning the day, because that's what Republicans use guns for. Defending their families and, skeet shooting and sport hunting. And, we use them for everything legal. We hunt, we do target shooting, we defend our households, our businesses, our families, and that's how we talk about guns, because that's what we use them for. When Democrats talk about guns, they talk about murder and robbery and crime, because that's what they use them for. See how that works, just like that. And great. President Trump decided to bring Joe Biden into it, Joseph Robinette Biden, and he's just riffing at the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington this morning, President Trump.
We have the lowest crime numbers, despite the fact that this horrible, world's worst president, this is the worst president we've ever had, Biden. He had no idea he was president, so he doesn't take it personally. I don't want him to take it personally. Fortunately, he has no idea what the hell I'm saying. And he's watching right now. He's happy with what I just said. Okay. This is what we had running our country.
He assumes that Joe Biden's at home, with a bowl of cereal in a high chair with a bib on. And is that what they're called? Bib? What is that called? So the babies wear like that, so they don't get the applesauce on their ties. The Joe Biden's at home watching it, and he likes it. He actually likes it. And he isn't. He didn't know. President Trump, the National Prayer Breakfast today.
And at some point, I'm going to get right back onto the teleprompter, and you're going to say, that was a wonderful speech. This is so much easier. It takes real talent to do the other.
Do the other.
The other is much more talent. But that's why we're president, I think.
That's why we're president of the royal we. That's going to get back on prompter at some point. The other is much easier, just riffing. I've got to say, I do that for 3 hours a day, and then in the evening we have scripts in the TV show, and I 3 hours a day I do this, kind of like President Trump. President Trump is going to get back on prompter.
All of us are made free and equal by the hand of our Creator. A lot of presidents refuse to say that. They refuse to say that. Some refuse. Some major politicians refuse to say the word God. They don't want to say it. I say it. That we are endowed with our sacred rights to life, liberty, and not by government, but by God Almighty Himself.
And the pursuit of happiness, the last part of that there. But as President Trump, and it's true, I know people that are close to President Trump, and they have said that since the Democrats tried to assassinate him in Butler, Pennsylvania, and he, missed it by that much, that the president really does have a sense that the hand of God is involved in his survival and his role as president of the United States. And apparently President Trump, he didn't grow up a Baptist minister or anything, like Al Sharpton, but that he's got some faith. He's got some faith, and he's surviving that assassination attempt had a lot to do with that. Also, another Democrat who tried to assassinate President Trump, he was in court. He was sentenced. He was sentenced yesterday. I told you yesterday he was in court preparing for sentencing. We learned the sentence yesterday. That is coming up.
I have to be the most inept charlatan in the country.
right, now, I know when I said the would-be Trump assassin was sentenced yesterday, and I know you said, which one? Well, the other one, Thomas Crooks, he was shot and killed by the U.S. Secret Service counter sniper from the rooftop to rooftop. And so he was sentenced immediately and shot President Trump through the ear, only because President had turned his head to the right a second before. Otherwise, it would have been the Zapruder film part 2. The other one is Ryan. That was Thomas Crooks. Ryan Ruth is the one that was arrested in Florida, creeping along the fence line at President Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach. And Ryan Ruth dashed, and citizens helped Ryan Ruth be arrested. Ryan Ruth, convicted of trying to assassinate Trump, sentenced to life in prison. Life in prison. Ryan Ruth, the man charged with trying to assassinate Donald Trump when he was running for president in 2024, will spend the rest of his life in prison. National Panhandler Radio, with your tax dollars, are typing. Ruth, now 60 years old, was found guilty last year on 5 counts for his planned attempt on Trump's life when he was then presidential candidate, and he was golfing at his own golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida. In addition to a life sentence ordered by U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon on Wednesday, he received an additional 7 years for one of his gun convictions. So they added the gun. You get life in prison, and because you had a gun, you get another 7 years for that, 80-something months. And at the sentencing in Fort Pierce, Florida, Ryan Ruth addressed the court seeking leniency, but Judge Cannon was unmoved. She said, "Your plot to kill was deliberate and evil. You are not a peaceful man." I think that's clear. And isn't that amazing? And Eileen Cannon, Judge Eileen Cannon, who was born in Cali, Colombia, was appointed to the bench by Donald Trump. Donald Trump, and the Democrats will appeal, no doubt, based on that, because they love murder. Democrats love death more than we love life. And you got to keep that in mind. To them, a single death is a tragedy, like Alex Pretty. A million deaths are a statistic, like Planned Parenthood, who they can't wait to keep funding. Aren't they remarkable? Yes, they are. Yes, Judge Eileen Cannon from Cali, Colombia. The Cali cartel, it's one of them. What, they're running cocaine out of Colombia? When did this start? Crazy, man, crazy. And I've got big stuff coming up. Why don't you hear the hearing yesterday with the Treasury Secretary and those crazy, rascally Democrats. All right, I have two more Donald Trump for you. Oh, the nice, let me see. Yeah, okay. Let's go to, and then I want to go to the phones. And then I get to the hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday with the insane Democrats who are all mentally ill. But first, President Trump. Now, this is President Trump talking about the U.S. military, and he wants it's the National Prayer Breakfast, and he said he's going to go back on prompter. He went back on prompter for a couple of words, and then I suspect that he veered off prompter again. He's talking about the U.S. military, and he wants our military to be strong, physically strong, muscle-bound, be able to do a lot of push-ups, and carry a rifle and shoot straight. And what else does he want from our military?
And we take people based on merit. Like, we prefer a strong person in the military as opposed to a weak person.
Sure.
We prefer somebody that's a strong, powerful person with extremely good vision that can shoot a rifle very well.
Good eyesight.
To a person that's extremely weak, non-muscular, can't shoot a rifle.
Bad eyesight.
Has no idea where the hell he is. We have a military where they all look like Tom Cruise, only bigger.
We have a military where they all look like Tom Cruise, only bigger, because Tom Cruise is not the biggest guy in the world. And he's Tom Cruise. He's a Scientologist. He doesn't go to the prayer breakfast. But we have a military that looks like Tom Cruise, only bigger. And that's not a heavy lift. That's not asking too much. So is complimenting, flattering our military. Strong, muscular, good eyesight, can shoot straight, look like Tom Cruise, only bigger, because Tom Cruise looks good, but he's 5'2", and he good stuff. It was good in that Top Gun Maverick movie, though. Top Gun Maverick, that was fun, fun stuff. And President Trump, he's actually, I guess, talking about the Bible and religion, and the Speaker of the House. And I don't think he's on prompter in this one either.
In 2025, more copies of the Holy Bible were sold in the United States than at any time in the last 100 years. Now, how about that? How about that? Did you know that, Mr. Speaker? You know, Mike Johnson's a very religious person, and he does not hide it. He'll say to me sometimes at lunch, "Sir, may we pray?" I say, "Excuse me? We're having lunch, you know, the Oval. It's okay with me."
Hey, it's okay with me, you know. We're in the Oval Office. And so sometimes people do a quick prayer before eating every meal, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's not uncommon, but President Trump is from New York. And it's true, apparently, that Bible sales in 2025, 18.4 million Bibles sold in the United States in 2025. And isn't that amazing? Quite a number. They're noticing more discussion of religion, particularly led by political officials, and Bible sales, and also the Democrat assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, yesterday, again, the would-be assassin of President Trump was in court. The day before yesterday, the assassin of Charlie Kirk was in court. And I just talked about the would-be assassin that shot Donald Trump through the ear in Butler, Pennsylvania, who was killed by a Secret Service counter sniper. One shot, one kill. The Democrat Party, they do a lot of this sort of thing, don't they? Yes, they do. All right, Michael, let's go to the phones. Let's take a phone call. Let's go to Marianne, calling from Chicago, Illinois, listening on the great WLS. Marianne, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Chris, thanks for taking the call. I just wanted to say that plain language has to come out of Donald Trump's mouth, in that he can tell the people that if they vote Democratic, they're voting for communism, and communism will take away your property, communism will kill people, and communism will also make us eat out of garbage cans and starve and put us in gulags, and also they will take away your nice little home and your nice little suburban neighborhood for all you suburban mothers and women that are going crazy over there. They'll lose their homes, maybe, and they'll also decide whether or not you can have your children or your pets.
Well, you remember the Communist Party. You remember the Communist Party of the 20th century, and that is what the Communist Party is famous for, if you're aware of the world we live in and the things that have happened in the last couple of generations. And you just ticked off what communists are famous for. And the Democrat Party, they call themselves socialists, Marianne, and the Soviet Union called themselves socialists too, but we know they were communists. And they had the Gulag Archipelago, and they murdered tens of millions of their own people, and they waged war all over the world, and they stole everything that anyone ever owned inside their borders, and they enslaved hundreds of millions of people, and really by extension more than 1 billion people. And you're right, President Trump. We really need to start calling out the Democrats. I was talking a little while ago, Marianne, about a Catholic church vandalized in Long Beach, California, and the Virgin Mary smashed and everything stolen and smashed and destroyed. And it was, the 548th Catholic Church attacked by Democrats violently. They don't believe in the free practice of religion. We had Don Lemon violating the First Amendment rights of churchgoers in St. Paul, Minnesota. And he's the hero of the story, according to Democrat media. Right, Marianne?
Right, but, it has to be spelled out to these dim-witted Democrats that they're going to lose all these things. What is wrong with them? That they would. It's okay for them to vote for communists. It would take away all their freedoms.
Well, I like to say, Marianne, and you're right about everything that you say. I like to say the left is coming for your rights.
How about the communists are coming for your rights?
Yeah.
We got to quit calling them anything else but communists, because that's what will wake up maybe the people, hopefully, the useful idiots that are out there.
Well, I hope so. And you live.
The useful idiots and the half-wits and the low IQ people.
Yep.
That, as President Trump says, the low IQ, low IQers.
You use all the correct terminology, Marianne, but you live in very, very Democrat Chicago.
I hate it.
And it's not warm and balmy there either.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But and what's happening with these protesters? It's remarkable. Why don't they arrest these people? You don't hear them get. What's the consequence of doing what they're doing?
Well, it's a fun
that.
question. You're absolutely right about that, Marianne. I tell you. And, I learned this morning listening to the radio on WMAL in Washington, D.C., where I'm from, which I'm broadcasting right now, Marianne, and I heard that in Virginia, the Democrats have introduced legislation in the State House run by communists now that will mandate that in every school in Virginia, they teach about January 6th and only about January 6th, and how it was a uniquely horrifying and terrible and violent event in U.S. history, which is a gigantic, fatuous Democrat Party lie, a rewrite of actual history. And that's what the Democrats do, because if you give them power, they abuse it. The Democrat Party believes that power is something to be abused first and really only. Marianne, thank you. Thank you for the call. And you have a very sweet voice, and I love the way you describe it. They're the communists, and they'll kill everybody in gulags, and it's all true, of course. They've done it again and again and again and again,
and take away their property.
And they definitely strip you of your property. And look, they're already coming for your guns. And for your
pushy suburban ladies, that they will be, when they take away your property, how cushy is your life going to be?
Well, they assume that they're with the party, and usually that is how it works in these communist countries, in Cuba and in Venezuela. The wealthiest person in Venezuela is Hugo Chavez's daughter, the big communist leader's daughter, who's apparently worth more than $4 billion because she picked up a lot of overtime shifts down at the Chick-fil-A and all that, but $4 billion, the daughter of Hugo Chavez, because they steal everything. They line their own pockets. They have the luxury houses down in the Black Sea in the old Soviet Union, where the party apparatchiks are treated one way and all the serfs are treated another way altogether. Marianne, thank you very much, and thank you for being aware of what's going on in world history, because so many people are not. And they get, again, the Democrat propagandists, the commie left in Richmond, Virginia, which was the capital of the Confederate States of America when the Democrats were in charge of the slavery and Confederacy, but paying no attention to that. And they got to mandate that they teach every school child about January 6th as a uniquely horrible incident in American history. Never mind the 3-day siege of the White House when President Trump was living in it, forcing the evacuation of the president and the first family to the underground nuclear bunker when they set fire to the church of the presidents, injured 180 police officers, perpetrated millions in damage. And not since the War of 1812, when the British attacked the White House in 1814, had the president been evacuated because of the violent mob outside. And that's all okay. That wasn't uniquely horrible. Not to Democrats, because they're, filth. Filth, I think is the word. All right, let's go to, thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Marianne. Very nice. Glad you hung in there for us. Let's go to the Hill, because the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, was testifying on Capitol Hill yesterday, and they want to talk about the economy and the fiscal health of the United States and all that good stuff. And Scott Bessent, who is, he's not a dumb man. And he's very comfortable in his skin. I think he's a very wealthy man, but he's very comfortable in his skin, and he does not let the crazy Democrats faze him at all. He's very steady, and he sits there with a calm look on his face while the crazy Democrats are screaming and throwing ashtrays and, like Hillary Clinton. And he's got almost a smirk on his face, waiting for the Democrats to make fools of themselves again. And then he just speaks up a little bit. Here's a radical left-wing lunatic named Gregory Meeks. He's a Democrat member of the House of Representatives addressing the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. And listen to this, because, you don't want to have a driver's license to have to vote, because that'd be racist or something like that. As opposed to the soft bigotry of low expectations that the Democrats bring to the dance, that no black person is smart enough to have a driver's license or a photo ID. Democrat Gregory Meeks, who's a black guy, and the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent.
I'm not going to ask much of you, Mr. Secretary.
That's
All
good.
I need to know is, will you halt it and do a complete investigation and scrutiny of this licensing application? All you have to ask is yes or no.
No, Congressman.
All you have to ask
the
is yes or
OCC
no.
is an independent entity, and I would know, Congressman,
I take that as a no.
You traveled to Venezuela
I take that as a no.
On behalf of your donor,
on behalf of your donor. You do not want to answer that question. I take that as a no.
And the Treasury Secretary is explaining, you traveled to Venezuela representing your donors to go stand with the communists there. Representative Gregory Meeks, Democrat, New York, on Wednesday snapped at Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent during a hearing focused, allegedly, on financial stability. But the Democrats ran it off the rails immediately, like the firebombing anti-Semites they are, telling Scott Bessent to stop covering for President Trump. I'm asking you to do your responsibility as Secretary of the Treasury, Meeks said, shrieking. Don't be a flunky. Work for the American people. Gregory Meeks. He's not a serious man. Gregory Meeks is a Democrat member of the House.
For $7 billion.
I'm asking you to do your responsibility as Secretary of the Treasury.
Secretary.
You do not.
Mr. Meeks,
Will you?
time has expired.
You cannot erase what you did in 2006.
He's the one that went past your time, Mr. Chairman.
No, and
he did not answer my question, and he wouldn't pass the
Mr.
time.
Meeks. He had 6 seconds left to try to answer your question, and the
it was a yes or no. It was a yes or no answer. I asked him, will he? No, it was yes or no.
The OCC is an independent.
Stop covering for the president. Stop being his flunky.
Gentlemen.
He's talking to me. I'm responding back to him.
2006 trip to Venezuela.
Stop covering for the president. Don't be a flunky. Work for the American people.
That's our Congress, Gregory Meeks. There are a number of words in there that he is obviously incapable of pronouncing, like secretary and protecting, and a lot of complex words like that. He's to be generous, illiterate, and an embarrassment to the U.S. Congress, and a Democrat in perfectly good standing with the news media who stand on the side and applaud him because of the soft bigotry of low expectations, which are in full bloom when Congressman Gregory Meeks speaks during a congressional hearing on what do we do? Stop covering for Trump and secretary and protecting. And join us here in the 21st century. Everything's fine. Then they've got a Democrat from Massachusetts, Meeks from New York. Democrat from Massachusetts named Stephen Lynch, in proud observance of the Democrat Party's history of lynching black people from trees using ropes to murder them in acts of mob violence. Here is Massachusetts Democrat Stephen Lynch with the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
This should be a serious question to you. Trust should be a serious question and a serious issue for the financial services industry, especially as the Secretary of the Treasury.
Well,
that's an important. No, this is my time. I haven't asked any more questions. I haven't asked you any more questions.
It's the gentleman from Massachusetts.
I'm trying to get to my next question.
Could you speak a little louder? I can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. I might.
What a maroon. Your Democrat Party. I haven't even gotten to Maxine Waters yet, and she's always a gem. The Democrat Party should not really be recognized as a legitimate political party in 2026 in the United States of America. They're violent. They're assassins. They shot Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk and Steve Scalise and tried to shoot Trump again, of course. They're violently attacking police all over the country. They're rioting. They're attacking Jewish governors with Molotov cocktails and pro-Israel marchers with Molotov cocktails. They're terrorizing Jews on campuses in New York. They can't speak English. They have no regard for decorum in Congress. They're not really a legitimate political party by normal Western standards. I have so much I want to get to. And I'm going to get to Maxine Waters shortly, but I'm looking at the big board here, and I've got to go to Kat. Let's go to Kat, calling from Washington, D.C. Kat, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hi, Chris Plante. How are you this morning?
I couldn't be better. How about you? What are you doing out there?
I'm out here plowing the roads. I'm not too far from your radio station.
Is that right? You're plowing the roads here in Washington, D.C.?
Yes, I am. I'm doing the last touch-ups of the side streets, and we're working our way to get all the trash up. You know, the alleys are being worked on by the backhoes right now, so they're going to go in and...
Yeah. Well, you sound like you're in good spirits.
I am in good spirits.
Well, that's good.
I'm in very good spirits. I one of your longtime listeners called me yesterday and said, they asked about you on the radio. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give them a call today and say hi. And, you know, I'm working around the clock still.
Well, I'm glad that you did call in. I appreciate the fact that you called in. I appreciate that you're out there on the roads. I did talk a little while ago about a lot of roads, my side street still not plowed and things piled up on quarters and stuff. But God bless you, Kat. And please check back in with me again.